Enjoy your
extra big-ass fries.
You didn't give me no fries. I got an empty box.
Would you like another?
Extra big-ass fries.
I said I didn't get any.
Thank you. Your account has been charged. Your balance is 0. Please come back when you can afford to make a purchase.
No.
I'm sorry you're having
Come
trouble.
on. My kids are starving.
Thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio. Here at Revolution Radio, we believe in freedom of ideas, freedom of speech, but above all, we believe in freedom of existence through self-reliance. This station is 100% listener-supported, and as a fundraising promotion, I have a kick-ass free gift for a $100 donation. 35,000 seeds. 25 years in the freezer. Long-term storable, 54 different varieties. So if food prices go crazy, the shit hits the fan, or if you just want to save tons of money every year by creating your own food like I do, grab our seed pack special. Just look for the banner on the homepage at freedomslips.com. Don't be a statistic. Don't be part of the problem. Be part of the solution. We need, as humans, to start taking care of ourselves and not depending on the megacorps to provide unhealthy, nasty food. Included in this package is also a DVD with 900 survival and off-grid living documents and the offline home canning how to do everything website, all on the DVD. So when you're growing all that food, you know how to can it, store it, preserve it, etc. with all these documents. So thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I hope that you will pick up this package and start learning to be free. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps and freedom is one seed that needs to be planted.
What are we doing live? Here goes an eternity.
All right, let's get it going. Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's go! Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. It is 10 p.m. Thursday evening, and we are here live on Studio A. Yeah, you've waited all week for the most cutting-edge topics and guests, and now it is time to deliver. That's right, it's the Stephen D. Kelley Show with your host, Stephen D. Kelley.
Good evening, everybody. Hang on just a second there, Stu. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to another edition of the Stephen D. Kelley Show, Thursday evening, 7 p.m. here on the West Coast, 10 p.m. on the East Coast, January 30th. Another special show. I'm joined tonight by Stu Webb. He's been here before, and I'm happy to have him back again. Hang on, Stu. I just want to do a little bit of business before I bring you on.
Stephen, just a moment. If I may, give me a call-in number. Put it down here on the bottom. I've got to do it on my phone.
Sean, take care of that for me.
Okay, sure thing. I can bring you in on the phone right now.
All right. Just want to remind everybody real quick that this is listener-supported radio. And I'm looking at the numbers right now, and we're still...
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic...
Oh, Stu. God. All right, we're having a little technical difficulties. We're trying to get my guest on, and he's, I guess, having some internet issues, so he's probably going to have to call in by the phone. But anyway, as I was saying, we've only got 2 days left to fulfill our obligations for our monthly, what we need to pay our bills just to break even. And we're less than $200 away from it, and so we're a little better than we were last night, but we still need your help. So if you guys can kick in a little bit, it would be very much appreciated. I also want to remind everybody that we have a very active chat room, and if you are listening to our program on your computer or your laptop, it is very easy to go into the chat room and make up a screen name, or you don't even have to do that. You can be anonymous. But join us, because that is a great way to send in questions to our guests, and there's a lot of interesting people in the chat room that you will enjoy meeting. I also want to remind everybody that we have a Facebook page that is very easy to find. It's facebook.com/freedomslips. Last time I looked, we had about 2,500 people, and every show I try to remind people because I would like to see 25,000 people because I know we've got hundreds of thousands of listeners out there, and we should be able to get a few more of you to join our Facebook page. Anyway, we're going to get Stu in here. He's gone off, and what's going on, Sean? He's going to try to call in on his landline or something?
Yeah, I'm talking with him right now. We'll bring him in shortly.
Oh, okay. Good. Great. Anyway, a little bit of stress there, but he had us hanging to the last second, and I'm glad that he made it. So I thought we were going to have to turn this into a roundtable or something if he didn't get here. But anyway, I'm excited to have him. I don't know if he's listening right now, but a lot of my guests that I bring in here, I just kind of go with the flow, and I get I don't know if I want to call it a download or a psychic whatever, I get a feeling this is the person I need to get in at any given time, and one day I just said, hey, I got to get Stu back in here, and funny enough, after I called him up and he said, yeah, sure, I'd like to come in, and then I see he had just done Lori and Fenton's show, and he had also done a big interview with Press TV, the Iranian news outlet. So I'm kind of interested to hear about what that was all about. Stu also said that he has a surprise guest that he is going to have call in, somebody that he's going to have us have join in. Stu called in. Apparently the switchboard is still being forwarded to Dr. J. What's up with that, Sean? Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, the server might just take like an extra 5 to 10 minutes longer to actually flip over from one host to another, and I'm guessing that's what the problem might be.
I see. All right, so we might have to kill 10 minutes before we can actually get him in here, huh? Oh, my goodness gracious. Anyway, I want to say hello to all the listeners. I want to say hello to everybody in the chat room. Hi, guys in the chat room. Oh, my God. I'll tell you, Sean, we've been having some really crazy roundtables, very, very active. We had one last night that was just over the top. I don't know if you've been hearing anything about that, but
no, what was the topic? I didn't engage.
Well, roundtables, we just go around and around and talk about whatever, but in fact, I'm not even really going to go over that right now because I don't want to offend anybody, but let's just say that we had about 8 or 9 people in there, and it got really deep there for a while. So anyway, we're gonna, what's our call-in number tonight? It's the same regular call-in number?
Yeah, the call-in number is 347-688-2902. Again, that's 347-688-2902, or you can Skype in with Freedom Screen, all one word.
Right. All right. I appreciate that. Of course, we're going to wait until the second half of the show before we start taking calls. And we certainly want you to take advantage of this opportunity if you have anything interesting that you want to relay to Stu. Yeah, John says the station is still forwarding to him, so golly gee. He wants to know what the caller should do. Well, don't panic, John. Don't panic, Stu. Golly gee. Anyway. Put the hip boots on. Yeah. Okay, I'm watching some of these guys in chat, and it's pretty wild. Anyway, I had a busy day today, and I was almost for a minute there thought I wasn't going to make it here on time, so I'm a little winded, but here I am, happy to be here, and looking forward to getting connected with Stu here and finding out what exactly has been going on. He seems to be really popular all of a sudden, and I think that there's certainly a lot of events going on in the world that he has some strong opinions about, so I'm very anxious to hear what he has to say. Well, that's the thing. People are asking me, what is he going to talk about? There's no shortage of things that Stu has to say, but I think we're probably going to talk about the current events, the current political situation, and, there's so much going on. We're looking at a possible bank failure here. I'm sure that's an issue. But I'll tell you what I really want to hear is what he had to say to Press TV and what that was all about. And of course, I'm interested to find out who his other guest is. Anyway, okay. Thomas recommends to have him call my Skype number, or I guess that would be yours, Sean.
Yeah, I could just put my Skype number into him. We could do it that way.
Yeah, let's do that.
The server would switch over, but yeah, we'll go with that.
Okay. Well, do what you can to get him in here because we're wasting valuable time, so we want to get him in here as soon as possible. Let's see what else. Last week's show was interesting. It was a lot of fun with Astrid. I hope you guys enjoyed that. And I've got some very interesting guests I'm trying to line up for the next week, and I'm waiting for some confirmation. But they seem like they're going to be some really good people. All right, looks like Stu is with us right now. Stu, how's it going? Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, Stephen, are you there?
I'm here. I can hear you fine.
Great. I want to make sure I have my co-guest this evening. Gene, are you there?
I'm here, Stu.
I have Gene Chip Tatum on with me. Super Spook. Black Ops.
Oh, boy. Black Ops Super
Blast from the
Spook.
past. We're going to have some fun tonight, Stephen.
All right. Well, I'm excited. But Stu, before we dive into this and you tell me everything that's going on with Gene, I'm sure he's got some interesting things to talk about. I'm really interested in hearing about your interview with Press TV.
The interview's on the Internet, if you would like to hear it.
Well, I know that, but I want you to talk about it. What did those guys? They must have had some pretty tough questions for you. What did you share with them? Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Well, it wasn't really tough questions. They were just speaking about the NSA spying. They had called me and asked me to make comment on their national news, their segment in the evening, where they have 6 to 8 segments, and they gave me about 4 or 5 minutes to speak. My response to it, and that was pertaining to the NSA spying, which they're reporting in several of the newspapers that they're going to curtail the spying, and they're not going to. It's going to expand 10 times fold, and basically what's going to take place is we have a new alien base that is hooked up to the new NSA base in Utah, from running from Richfield, Utah, the NSA base or the alien base running all the way up to the Bluffdale, Utah, and there's enough computers on each floor to fill Washington D.C. for each floor, comparable to what Washington has in total computers. And the capability of that base is going to be they can, one floor would fly drones, and another floor will be able to manipulate you and control you through your TVs, through the internet, through your ground line, or your cell phone, either one. And Veterans Today reported on the technology that here a few months back, when the naval shooting occurred, the naval yard shooting, that the guy had been mind controlled by the Mossad, and they were aware of it because this was on military intelligence. My friends actually investigated it and said that this guy had been mind screwed with for quite some time with electronics, and they were doing it basically over a cell phone.
Stu, do me a favor if you could. Your volume is just a little bit low. I guess there's some people here having a little trouble hearing. If you could maybe get a little closer to the microphone or speak a little bit louder, we'd all appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll speak a little bit louder with you. But that's
Great.
what the interview was about. They wanted my opinion, whether it's going to be curtailed or not, whether the press releases coming out in the New York Times and the Washington Post was accurate or whether it was bogus, and I gave my opinion of it.
So Stu, I guess what you're saying right now kind of reaffirms a belief that I had that this NSA data center that they're building is really redundant. They've got massive facilities that are in effect right now that are underground that are essentially doing everything that this thing that's on the surface is expected to do. Would you agree?
Yes, I have friends that have been there, have been inside the facility.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say any more, but they have been inside the facility, and this connects to this new alien base, or a base they built back in the late 90s over in Utah that runs from Richfield, Utah, which is right north of I-70 there, where it ends. It's back to the east where it ends at I-95, and it runs all the way up to the Bluffdale, Utah base. And it's a very serious situation that we've got facing us, all Americans, and what will happen to people by the end of the year, from what I've heard. And I'm hearing this from super secret shadow government types, like one that we have on the telephone. He did not give me this information, but Gene Chip Tatum has been a super spook of the past. And I have a lot of friends that are in his level. And Gene was out there, my co-guest here, he was out there in the mid-'90s doing a lot of radio programs. I booked him on most of his radio programs. And back then, because of the vital information that he had, because he was a major player. And I have other people that are still working for the government that are major players, and they're telling me the same thing. And even Veterans Today, which is basically most of the people on Veterans Today, it's a military site, and it's a governmental website. There's only 3 of us up there that are not military intelligence. It just so happens to be that I'm a whistleblower. They respect what I have. They want me to unleash everything I have. And, they've asked me to do this over the past year, and I haven't done it. And I'm beginning to do it now because they want the information.
Well, you seem to be kind of a hot commodity at the moment, but I do regret, Stu, that there's still a few people that are having a little trouble hearing you. So if there's anything that you can do, I understand you're using your cell phone to make this call?
I'm making it off of a phone, but I'll speak up as loud as I can. Is the volume okay now?
Well, I can certainly hear you. There's just a few people in the chat room that are saying that it's too low. So, sorry guys, try to turn it up and do what you can. Also, I want to, for the people anybody that's listening that is unfamiliar with Stu Webb, perhaps I should probably give you a real quick bio. Stu, well, we did this last time, of course, but you are what's your title over there? You're a contributing editor over there at Veterans Today?
No, I'm a columnist at Veterans Today.
A columnist.
I'm a declared federal whistleblower. I fell underneath the Whistleblower Act of 1989 when I caused the congressional investigations on HUD, the 1989 HUD scandal, the 1990 Silverado hearings involving Neil Bush, the Denver International Airport, and all the construction fraud in its secret underground, which I later released a video of. And, of course, what they dubbed the Keating 5, which was the MDC 200, the parent company of Silverado, where Neil Bush was director. They were doing illegal political campaign money laundering. And, I've exposed a lot of other things. I worked with Jonathan Beatty at Time Magazine, and we had been touching on a lot of the BCCI-connected stuff with the Charles Keating lawsuit. And what they called the Saudi European Investment Corp suit that put Charles Keating in jail. I worked with the PIs on that. They even came here to Kansas City and saw me back during that period of time, getting to the depth of the frauds. But it was because I'd married into the crime syndicate. They took my kid as the reason I even got involved. Illegally bribed a judge, and matter of fact, I even did a frauds upon the court some 10 years later where they put a lifetime restraining order on me, on my own child, said I gave her up for life in exchange for $1.5 million. It never occurred. They did frauds upon the court in a separate court where they signed my name to all this stuff and the whole bit. So, but I've exposed a lot over the years. Some are claiming that I'm really kind of the bank whistleblower, bailout whistleblower in the 2008 scandal because of the information I provided to Interpol people that actually brought them to bank bailout with the TARP bailout. So I've been around for a long time. And it's not so much my background, and I think a lot of your listeners, we've done a program in the past, and a lot of people that listen to Revolution Radio, Freedom Slips, they've heard me on a ton of your programs in the past. So
that's right. Yeah, well,
tonight I don't want to so much harp on myself. What I want to bring to you is I want to bring someone that's been on the radio network or the radio circuit with me in the past. It's a good friend of mine, and he's a super spook, and the information is vital, what he has to say.
Well, go ahead and introduce. Yeah, go ahead and introduce Gene and bring him in here, and I'm anxious to hear what he has to say.
Well, I think the best way is to read from a short bio on him, is on Gene, and that's basically. Let me pull it up here. Vietnam Special Forces Air Combat Controller, U.S. Army pilot flying classified missions during the U.S. invasion of Grenada, Iran-Contra pilot, 25-year CIA deep cover agent, and member of the ultra-secret Pegasus hit teams. And with that said, Gene, are you there?
I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Wow, Gene's got excellent volume. How you doing, Gene? So you were a hitman, I see here, huh?
We did neutralizations. If that included an assassination, yes.
All right. So are you still active or what?
No, I'm very retired. Matter of fact, I've been retired of living in South America for 9 years, and I've just come back up into the U.S. And while here, I was convinced to get back on the radio network and clarify a few things that were said years ago and bring up to date the information. A lot of it has come full circle. Things that I was saying then are here today, and now people are wanting to hear more. So I'm here. I'm available.
By all means, please.
Remember, Stephen, real quick, if you remember Gary Webb, he worked for the San Jose Mercury Press.
Oh, very much so. I actually talked to him when he broke that story, yeah.
Okay, well, Chip Tatum, that you have on the phone here with us, and Terry Reed, our mutual friend, and a guy named Michael Rupert were the ones that caused that scandal. They were the ones that contributed, and Gene was the one, I believe Terry was the one actually reached out on your behalf, and Gene was working Congresswoman Maxine Waters and so forth, and working her hard to get hearings. I was too, pushing her, and she caved in, and that ended that situation. And of course, later Gary wrote his book and was murdered. But that's just an example. I mean, Gene worked with Barry Seals. He worked with many, many people. So I'm turning the mic back over to him.
Yeah, please do. For those people who don't remember the story about Gary Webb and his Dark Liaison story, I think was the name of the story, he allegedly committed suicide by shooting himself in the head twice. Good trick, huh?
He must have been pretty depressed.
Yeah, he must have had I don't know, how do you do that? It can't happen. I think it was a .45 too, right? I mean, how do you shoot yourself in the head twice with a .45? That doesn't work really good. Anyway, Gene, talk to us. Tell us some stories.
A .45 and a .22 caliber, two separate weapons, and then they call it a suicide. You got two shots to the head.
Yeah, really. Anyway, yeah, but Gary Webb is definitely one of my heroes. Him and Phil Schneider and our other friend. Oh my gosh, I can't remember his name. Bill Cooper, of course. Those three guys. I like to dedicate my work to those three men. So they're my heroes. Anyway, Gene, please. Tell us some of your exploits. What do you really want to share with us tonight? I know Stu's excited to have you here, and please, we're all ears.
Well, I can tell you, many years ago when the rumors of all the black helicopters were around, remember those rumors? Black helicopters flying here and there over towns and so forth. That was our unit. That was 160th Operations. We weren't really black helicopters. We had unmarked helicopters. We had very dark paint with the same very dark color paint that painted our tail numbers in it, so you could see nothing. You'd have to feel the tail numbers. Mm-hmm. We were covert operations. We were under the direct control of the CIA, and most of our missions, including the missions that we flew into Grenada, were planned and worked through Oliver North's office as early as '83 and on through into the Iran-Contra deception, I call it, because the truth has never come out what they were really trading and what they were really doing, and it was on several different fronts that they were doing it. So I'm here to bring a little more flavor to what was really going on when we were flying the drugs and we were flying the arms and we were supplying medical supplies into the Contras, and then what we were flying over into Europe and into Iran.
Well, you guys, I'll tell you, I worked with the Ollie North gang myself, but I didn't know. I thought it was the CIA. It wasn't until years later that I was dealing with CIA again. They told me it was actually the NSA that people I was dealing with. But they were the ones that called it the Ollie North gang. So you were part of the Ollie North gang.
I was. Tried and true.
Well, I got a question for you, Gene. Basically, something must have happened that made you change of heart and turn you into the man you are today. What was it that happened that made you kind of turn the other side?
As a young military man, you're all gung-ho and you're working your heart out. You're doing whatever you need to do to protect and defend your country. And then when you get put into assignments and as you move along through the echelons and you come up higher and higher in the ranks and you see a little more of the corruption, you start understanding, well, maybe I'm not really working for the defense of my country. Maybe I'm not really doing what I thought I was doing, maybe this is all not for the best, and maybe there's something real wrong here. And so I started looking into it, and I started thinking about it. And I got to the point after one order was given, enough was enough. And so I walked away. And the week after I walked away, I found myself in Hillsborough County Jail on federal charges of treason.
Wow. Yeah, I remember it was 1990 when I had my epiphany and had kind of the same sort of experience that you had, and kind of realized the good guys weren't so good and the bad guys weren't so bad, and that's really what started me down that road. I think you probably had the same experience, it sounds like.
Yeah, more or less, it just wasn't right. It just didn't feel right any longer, and I knew it was wrong. So, and enough was enough. I mean, they were, we talk about the NSA wiretapping here. We were doing worse than that then. We were neutralizing our own presidential candidates. Hart was nothing more than an operation.
Right.
Ross Perot, him leaving was another one of our operations.
You were Gene, you were involved with the neutralization of Ross Perot during the presidential election of 1990.
I was asked to do that, and I turned it down. That's when I walked away.
And
one of the other teams did accept it and did it. We weren't the only team. We were several teams.
Well, what exactly did they want you to do?
Ollie North had you arrested. Isn't that true?
Right.
Okay. Well, what did they expect you to do to Ross Perot? When you say neutralize, was that?
When we're given a job of neutralization, it's any means necessary. Normally we would look at intimidating someone, and depending on what the job was, what did you want? What was the outcome out of this? What do you want to see? And in Perot's in the Perot operation, they just wanted him out. They wanted him to quit. So it would be an easy intimidation. However, he's an American citizen. I don't do that, so I turned it down. And I wrote him a letter, and I explained to him what went on in the meeting. And a few weeks later, he received notification that if he didn't cooperate and walk away, that his daughter would be terribly I don't know what the word is. Blackmailed or intimidated, and he's a family man. He didn't want it to happen, so he walked away.
I'm just out of curiosity, did they do anything similar like that to our friend Ron Paul?
You have to wonder, don't you? I haven't been here for 9 years, so.
Okay. So you're actually you're in South America right now?
A couple things that I'm aware of with Ron Paul and something with Ross Perot, and this may trigger your memory from years back when we did these shows, Gene. But I was in Houston, Texas, hiding from the FBI. They had a warrant for my arrest for supposed death threats to my ex-in-law because of the congressional investigations I caused and all the Time magazine articles and all the Denver Post before they bought them all out and all that. And there was a lot of noise going on. And so they issued a warrant to silence me. Later made me a political prisoner, and that's where I met all the Iran-Contra boys that are all locked up and super shadow government types. But the thing was, is Ross Perot, a friend of mine, had a friend at Pennzoil headquarters, J.D. Lickey, and Daddy Bush owned Pennzoil in Houston. And someone inside Pennzoil headquarters, I can't say, a secretary, I'll put it that way, happened to get her hands on a fax. And this particular fax said, in need of $2.5 million to do Operation Lockdown on Bush competition, or do Operation Lockdown, I think it's red, on Bush competition in Dallas. Well, I repeated that to Al Martin, Iran-Contra whistleblower I knew at the time, and he checked on some things, and he had a colonel inside the White House, in the NSA inside the White House, that verified that this was true. He tried to contact Ross Perot, unable to. Margie Sloan, that was working with Time magazine, and Pete Bruton doing his book that we all contributed to, The Mafia, CIA, and Bush at that time. She tried to reach him. And even Rodney Stitch, who wrote The Fraud in America that I'm written about in, and Gene is, and others tried to reach him because they were working with Gunther Russbacher, someone that Gene knows, and I believe Gene may have worked with him in the past. But I made a phone call, and Pro would always, for some reason, he would pick up the telephone for me and answer it. And I told him about that fax and actually sent him the fax to copy. And then, of course, shortly after that, he pulls out of the election. Then he came back in the election, and I had a conversation with him about 3 days before he re-entered the election. And I said, and he told me he was getting back in. I said, do you think you can really win it? He says, that's not my point at this stage, Stu. He says, what my intention is to pull off enough votes off of George Herbert Walker Bush that Lawrence Walsh, he can indict him when he leaves office. He says, then Bill Clinton will be indicted. Vice President Albert Gore will become president, which he says all politicians have Piccadillys, but at least he's not dirty. And he says, maybe we can turn the country around. And that was what his intent was. I saw an interview no more than probably 6 months ago or 8 months ago on CNN with Daddy Bush. So I watched it. His statement was, I don't like Ross Perot. I never liked Ross Perot. I hate Ross Perot. he was livid. He was like a mad dog about Ross Perot. So I just wanted to throw that comment in. Second is I'm aware that, I'll say it tonight, your famous Ron Paul, did you know he worked for the CIA?
Well, I wouldn't be surprised, but tell us more.
Can't give you the details of what I'm aware of, but he worked for the CIA. I'll put it that way. I do know that, and I can confirm with a lot of people. I mean, it's been confirmed.
Was that during his military service, or was that an ongoing thing?
I don't know what I didn't read the bio on it. I was just told that by several different spooks that he was, because they worked with him in various operations.
All right. Okay. Well, there's a lot of questions are starting to come in. Of course, we're going to wait until the end of the first hour to ask that. But I guess one of the questions I've got that I think you guys can help me out with is there's a lot of rumor about some big event that's going to be taking place here in February. Is there anything that you guys could tell us about that? What do you know about that?
Gene, are you still there?
I'm here.
Why don't you tell them about what the FBI did to you recently over reposting that so-called Super Bowl letter that was someone had sent to you?
There was a Super Bowl letter, a false flag letter posted on the internet, so I reposted it to my website, Tatum.com. About an hour later, I received a call. I'm on federal probation. So I texted it to a friend, and I posted it on the site, and the texts were taken in through the local office here. So they asked me to come into Tampa and talk to them. I refused. So they had a local sheriff stand at the door, wait for them to show up. They took me down to the local county jail and interrogated me for about 2 hours, then called in Homeland Security. And then Homeland Security simply let me go.
They don't want to mess with you. Well, what I'm thinking is that
there was nothing there. I was just passing on a letter, and I explained to them, this is the website that says that they got the letter, they got the original letter. You guys need to go to them.
All right.
Not we who are reposting.
What about all the bank crashes that are going on and these bank executives that are jumping off buildings and hanging themselves allegedly and things like that? Certainly there must be some sort of a crash coming. Do you have any insight into that?
I've heard a lot from good friends about financial crisis coming. I've lived in South America, and when I came up here, from what I see, it isn't coming. It's already here. I mean, there's no coming. Everyone tells me how bad the finances were up here, and when I finally came up here, in the block where I live now, 3 out of every 10 homes are empty and with signs in the window where they're owned by banks. People aren't able to work. Like you say, these people are jumping off buildings. They're not able to feed their families. They're not able to deal with the corrupt things that they've done in the past.
You know,
I see it already here. You people are living in it and have been living in it, and so you've become more acclimated to it. But it was an actual culture shock for me to come back to the United States after being gone for 9 years.
You know, I might add something to that, Steve, in your statement about
Sure.
this. You know, I've watched this and watched the takeover of America and watched a handful of people, this 1%, we'll call it, that Occupy and all the kids referred to as, which was about the truth, about 1% of the population. They controlled, according to the General Accounting Office, in 1981, controlled 20% of the economy of the United States. That means they controlled oil 20%, they controlled food 20%, they controlled everything, housing, all this. This same 1%, that was in 81. And the General Accounting Office put out in June of 2012 that 400 men now, 400 men, make more money and control 97 or 95%, they said, of the U.S. economy. And 400 men make more money per year, these 400 men, than half of the entire population of the United States, of being 330 million people. Now that, they stole the economy. It's impossible for 400 men in 25, pushing 30 years, 81, 91, 201, 30 years. It's impossible for 400 men to legitimately take over the economy of a country like ours. It's through theft, deception, and fraud. And I might add this. I have friends high up, and it was told to me last year, after a 16 intelligence agencies report that was completed, said the following names were in it. It said, they told me because my ex-in-law, Leonard Mellman, was in it, one of the Illuminati top 12. They said Leonard Mellman, his buffer Larry Mizell, both in Denver. Mellman's hiding in Cuba right now, faked his death because he died through it in 2004. He knew he was going to get indicted by Caroline. But this report said Leonard Mellman, Larry Mizell, George Herbert Walker Bush, Jeb Bush, Neil Bush, George W. Bush, Walter Bush, Marvin Bush, and the Bush family, including Bill and Hillary Clinton, Bibi Netanyahu of Israel, among others, it named in there. It said that they have been involved in every financial fraud since the early 1980s, from everything from the savings and loan collapse to the various Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, all the others collapses where they were bleeding them dry, to junk bond daisy chains, to robbing the government through HUD and contract frauds, to every kind of fraud conceivable. It further said they were tied to that they controlled AIPAC, the American-Israeli Pact, and that they were involved in espionage involving the Jonathan Pollard spy ring that set the U.S. back in the Middle East and Russia in our codes and nuclear codes and so forth, anywhere from 10 to 20 years of damage they've done to us. Mm-hmm. And it further said that they were involved in the Oklahoma City bombing of the Murray Building in 1995 and did the attack on America on the day of 9/11. And they know that. Now, that was October of last year. Our U.S. intelligence, 16 different agencies, compiled their reports on this subject.
Mm-hmm. There's, when you name all these names, there's something I want to address real quick, and Gene, I want your opinion also. One of the things that I discovered when I got in kind of deep with these underground types is the Zionist/Nazi connection, and the fact that it's almost like two sides of the same coin, and half the country is run by the Zionists, and the other half is run by the Nazis. Is that also? I mean, would you agree with that?
I have to agree in part. Look, the Nazis are what brought technology to the United States. Face it, they brought our space program, they brought computers, everything that we have today as far as technology was introduced here, stolen from Germany and brought in here. On the Zionist side, a lot of control on the financial side. So there are two, I think that those are two tie-ins.
A lot of people call the technology also the alien technology because I worked with, didn't work with, he was a friend of mine and worked with him up till the time I left Las Vegas Ed Slade. And there's some audio tapes of him. He decided to come public. He was a U.S. scientist working for Coat Arms. He answered directly to people like Lawrence Rockefeller, Meyer Rothschild, my ex-in-law, Daddy Bush, different ones. And he even knew when he first became a U.S. scientist, USCI scientist, he had indicated that he even met Nikola Tesla before his death. Wow. So he goes way back, and he developed the jet propulsion, a lot of different things, and was credited for supposedly landing the lunar during the Apollo project on the moon. And he says, dude, damn, he says, they're sitting there showing there's no dust blown off the moon. He said, I knew they used anti-gravity if they even landed on the moon. Mm-hmm. So, he worked at what they call S4, Area 52, at the alien base outside of Las Vegas, not Area 51, but they call it S4. And he actually worked in there and made projects for the aliens. Mm-hmm. Now, this was an example, and it's in those interviews. It's in my middle column on StuWebb.com, and it says Ed Slade, U.S. scientist, shows a picture of a flying saucer. But when he was murdered 2 years ago, and when they did the autopsy and went in there and x-rayed him when he was in a coma after they had hit him, and I would be talking to him, and he'd be knocked on the floor through his cell phone. They found over 2,000 marks on his brain where he was being hit in the head with something. That was from holding a cell phone at his ear because of the technology. But here's how far advanced the technology was, and he said, Stu, don't ever tell anybody until after my death. I said, okay. He had created a loaf of bread size metal. It's called Element 115 mu metal that the Robotoids were made of because he developed it. Like the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie where it's a robot running around,
Terminator
stripped off of it.
Yeah.
We have 1,200 of them in our arsenal that they built. He was actually involved in the development, the original development of it, and then DuPont took it over and actually made them, and then they sold, Daddy Bush sold it, I understood, from Al Martin and Stephen Dinnerstein, and Dinnerstein was a DOD defense investigator, said that Bush had passed those secrets years ago in the early 90s for $2.5 million. The Chinese developed supposedly 2 million of these things. Robots. The only way you can kill this robot is with an armor-piercing bullet to the head because it has the brain inside. It's like a human does in the skull of this robot. And
what about an EMP?
Short-circuited.
An EMP?
Real quick, I'll just throw out real quick. He said he developed Element 115 that was used as the moving metal, living organism. And they developed it with other products, other elements, 116, 117. 118 is called dipolonium. It's top secret. It's what they make the flying saucers out of. So when they come back in the atmosphere, so forth, a lot of people have seen them glowing. I saw one come in out in Las Vegas, glue, kind of an orange-yellow color. It's a heat shield, this element 118 dipolonium. Now, he said he was able to take that development of the 115, 116, and 117, and he says the development 116 or 117, I forgot which number it was. One was a fusion of radiation in it. But one of them, he says, is the metal that they get out of the bowels of the earth up in Yellowstone National Park. He says you will see the parks close down around 5 o'clock. And he says there will be guys out there in ranger suits running around with vacuum cleaner type machines sucking the metal out of the water because it's that silver metal that's in the water that they're after. And he fused these things together and came up with 118. Well, into 119. And how he put it to me was he had a loaf of bread. He was told to go meet what he considered to be a fallen angel. He said they were aliens / fallen angels. He said 7'2" guy, kind of Nordic, was told to go meet him. He went and met him. And he says, you must be Ed. Yeah, I'm Ed. He says, have you got what I want? Yeah, I've got what you want. He says, go set it out there 50 yards. He went out, set it out 50 yards, and came back. And he says, now what? He says, watch. And it turns into a flying saucer.
That's
he says, how'd you do that? Ed says, all excited. He says, I thought it into a flying saucer. Now, Ed, you do it. And all of a sudden it turns back to a loaf of bread. And then Ed sitting there, he says, no, Ed, you're not concentrating right. He said, think this way, think that way. Ed says, The guy's reading my mind, Stu, and he says suddenly it turns into a flying saucer, so he took me on a trip of the toy that I just made for him. He said this is how they're able, he said the technology is so far advanced that nobody has any idea. Now, this is what I've been told about this Bluffdale, Utah base, along with the alien base, that they're able to take and control you and turn you into an assassin. They find out your likes, what you watch on TV, what you're doing on the Internet, what you're seeing on the Internet, what you're looking at, and who you're talking to, and what your likes and dislikes are, and then they can actually program your mind accordingly. Veterans Today reported on something similar to this no more than about 6 weeks ago.
Wow. What do you have to say about that, Gene?
I'm speechless.
Well, you know, Stu, as soon as you started describing this material, the first thing I thought of, it sounded exactly like what they're building these flying saucers or beam ships out of, so that doesn't surprise me at all. And here
I came across Aurora pilot also when I lived in Las Vegas, and, you know, that was we're flying that, it shape shifts, the same kind of material, and it shape shifts in midair so it can gain speed. It's like the old SR-71. The wings, you know, are loose and everything. It starts shifting back. But these things are an organism, a living organism, and they've got the Aurora airplane that's made out of it, is my understanding. You know, John Lear's a friend of mine. We've had talks in secret about stuff. You know, I know other people in his category that were test pilots, so forth. So I've come to know quite a bit about some of this, these special projects, because a lot of this money that was stolen was put there. I mean, they created $100 trillion worth of artificial mortgages that led to bank bailout, and I kept saying, where'd all the money go if they didn't buy the economy? Stu, you think that's rough? Take a look at this. They created $5,000 trillion worth of derivatives tied to those $100 trillion worth of artificial mortgages. I said, well, they had enough money to buy up the economies of the world 3 times over, these 12 men. What the hell did they do with all the money? Well, John Lear swears up and down. Other people inside military intelligence and other branches, the CIA and other branches, I got them in all the branches, are claiming the same thing. They have built, it's all off planet. I said, what do you mean off planet? We built huge projects inside the moon and inside Mars both. Now, I got John Lear on another program recently, and he confessed up that his father, Lear Jets, was in charge of building flying saucers. He called it anti-gravity from 1952 to 1956 from the alien technology. And that they, and I asked him, I said, John, isn't it true that the U.S. Arsenal has about 150 flying saucers? And he says, that's what I've heard.
You guys, I want you to help me out with an issue right now that I constantly have to address with people on the Internet that think they know what's up, and that is whether or not we landed on the moon. Obviously, I believe that we did because we left retroreflector arrays up there for measuring distance, and I don't believe that you could send a robot up there to drop those things. And I really don't think they spent billions of dollars just to drop 3 retroreflectors up there. So my opinion is that at least 3 times we were there. You agree?
I agree. I honestly think we do, having worked with Black Ops, having flown support over at Cape Canaveral, Cape Kennedy. I believe we did.
I'll tell you something, too. I had an uncle that worked for Martin Marietta when he retired out in Denver. He worked for Rockwell International out of Los Angeles, and he was one of the head engineers for project at the development of the Apollo and with Rockwell. And he was on site when they launched, and actually it was up on the tower before they leave the tower before launch of the Apollo projects. And they give the contractors, the aerospace contractors actually gave particular cameras to each and every one of those astronauts, everyone that was involved, and they had all these extra cameras and stuff shoved in the Apollo, so they made sure that they had plenty of film. Well, my uncle was proud of, quote unquote, proud of the fact that he had pictures that had never been seen. They showed pictures of, Earth from the moon and different stuff and Time magazine and all this other. My parents actually have some pictures from the other side of the moon of various things that, on the dark side, they called it, that nobody's ever even seen. Mm-hmm. One day I'll have to maybe get those from my parents and see if I can get them scanned and put up on the Internet.
Most of the astronauts have photos of UFOs themselves that they took from the moon looking up. So, I believe we were there, I believe they were there, and I believe someone was watching them.
So it's possible then all this Stanley Kubrick footage and all that the people keep talking about was basically just to supply something for the viewers when they couldn't airbrush out all the alien artifacts that would have been seen on the camera. Is that essentially right?
I don't know about the videotape. All I know is there is so much disinformation out here, Stephen, that it's just phenomenal. The amount of disinformation artists that are on the radio, the ones that have these websites that titles sound good, they have no idea. I understand why now that people have called Daddy Bush in particular have called the American people bug people, the broke, the useless, and depressed. And I think he told you, Gene, he told others that, what was the statement about the food on the table and the car in the driveway and the roof over the head? And keep the budsters at bay, something like that.
The Americans would be happy. The Americans were apathetic. They would be happy as long as they had food on the table, gas in their car, and a roof over their head. Supply those, and they can do anything they want in this country.
But I watch what is being happening and has happened because I've been out here on the radio since '91. And thinking that I was going to make change and educating people and people like Gene coming to the radio with me in 95 to 97, we made a lot of noise during that period of time. Al Martin was out there with us for 6 months or 8 months. Many other people. I've known so many people ever since that time frame. I knew the three that you mentioned in the first part of the show. I knew William Cooper, Bill. I talked to him several times, right up until a couple of days before they shot and killed him down there in New Mexico or Arizona, wherever he was at. And I met Schneider in Denver, Colorado, at Global Sciences in 1984 or 5 when he just was shot and had bullet holes and still stitches in him, going down there in Dulce in the Dulce base, and had 2 or 3 hour talk with him, sat there and drank a couple of beers with him. I mean, Gene spoke at Global Sciences way back, what was that, 96 or 97 out in Colorado. It was a big alternative medical type event. A bunch of doctors would put on different ones, but they started getting into the reality of things and starting to listen. But, I look at everything anymore, and I'm looking at the stupidity of the American people sometimes. I know that we have a tremendous amount of people out here at Awake, and they become educated from guys like us out here on the radio telling the truth. But there's so many people out here taking the truth, and then they take mainstream media and they'll play half a mainstream media garbage on their radio programs and read from reports, and then they'll put out their own disinformation. And the government has so many of these trolls out here, it's pathetic. I mean, I could sit here and just ramble off names of talk show hosts out here that I won't do talk radio with them because they're stooges.
Well, thank you for not putting me in that category.
Pardon me?
Thank you for not adding me into that category.
I'm doing a radio program with you. That ought to tell you something, Stephen.
I hope you guys are listening to this. Thank you, Stu. Yeah, I got to tell you guys, Stu, I really want to thank you for bringing Gene here. What a great guest. But I got to say, now that I've got both of you here, 2 hours isn't enough. You got to come back. What do you think, Gene?
We can arrange that, or we can arrange for you to put Gene on by himself.
I'm more than happy to have Gene come back. What do you think, Gene? Do you want to come back next Thursday and have me devote a couple hours to you?
I'd be happy to come back. I just need to look at my schedule and make sure Thursday is available.
All right. Well, you do that. Look at your schedule, and if this coming Thursday doesn't work, I'll schedule the following or whatever works for you.
Okay, that'd be great.
All right, great.
I kind of got a schedule here, and I'm going to put it down for you, okay, Gene?
All right.
Okay, I'll remind you, but I'm kind of booking some shows to get him back into the talk show circuit where he can get on his own again as far as everybody getting to know him so he can tell everybody what's going on.
Listen, guys, we're going to be taking a break in about 50 seconds, so I want to remind everybody that the call-in number is 347-688-2902, and when we come back from the break, you are all welcome to call in, and I know I'm looking here in chat, and Ed, call in. You've got a lot of questions. Just call in, okay? And you guys stick around. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Give Gene 15 minutes, because I'm the one that's been rambling this first hour. Why don't you give Gene 15 minutes to talk about the operations he's been involved with, where people know?
I'd be happy to.
I mean,
unfortunately, though, we are...
Tatum.com, and we made him a columnist on Veterans Today. He has his first story up there if people want to look. And Gene has a track record that's impeccable. You know, in the level that he's in, there's only been 2 that I'm aware, 3 maybe. And Gene's above him. Cherry Reed was probably close to his level up there. Not quite. Maybe Al Martin might have been up towards that level. But I think Gene's probably the one that's been the highest ranking in the level of a super spooks that's ever spoke out like this.
Well, we're very happy to have you on the show tonight, Gene. I'm honored. But again, like I said, we've only got seconds before the end of the break. So if you guys, when you start hearing music, if you could mute and just hang tight, go get yourself a drink of water, run to the bathroom, whatever you need to do, and we'll be right back in just a few moments with lots of more questions. How much time we got left, Sean? It looks like I thought we were about ready to go on a break right now, huh? Oh, there it is. Okay, everybody, stick with us. We'll be right back in about 4 or 5 minutes.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message. The finder of lost children and missing persons. Monique Lassan. Surveillance, civil and criminal investigations. I investigate.
You know, I am the chosen one.
Do not underestimate the power of good, and do not dismiss the strength of the child.
Yes, every Wednesday evening on Revolution Radio, come join our very own Eye Investigatrix, Monique Lassan, with her private Eye X-Files.
So you're the finder of lost children?
Private Eye X-Files, every Wednesday from 10 to midnight Eastern, Studio B, on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com.
I realize it's very hard for you to take in. But is your destiny to find the golden child?
Listen in to Journeys with JP, Tuesdays on Revolution Radio at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, with a variety of guests, each giving their unique perspective on their journey through to the now. Journeys offers you, the listener, a chance to share that perspective. Join me, JP, on Tuesdays at 3 p.m. Eastern on Revolution Radio, simulcast with Wolf Spirit Radio.
Every Tuesday evening on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, we present our goddess spiritual warrior, Kathy Bilski.
I command. I call to the architect of the universe's divine creators and ask for permission to quantum leap the world in all life forms on all planes and dimensions, seen and unseen, connected with planet Earth, to let us go beyond our known potential into the greatest unknown golden age the universes and worlds and all planets have ever experienced.
Kathy teaches the spiritual truth so that you may create a better life and be able to make positive changes for yourself and for the planet. She helps us remember that we are not powerless, but very creative spiritual beings having an Earth experience. Time to quantum leap into the age of divine enlightenment and let Kathy provide you with the tools of knowledge you need to awaken spiritually. That's the Quantum Leap Show. Let light unite every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern on Revolution Radio, Studio B.
Enter into a world unseen on Raven Star's Witching Hour. You will encounter eclectic topics from the realm of spirit brought into our matrix of truth. With your host, the Solaris Blue Raven. Solaris will bring you an array of unique guests covering topics from ghostly spirits to amazing anomalies, covert technology, UFOs, and shadowy global events.
And that's right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, Saturdays midnight till 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Let the magic rise.
Did you ever feel that things were not quite right? That everything was just ever so slightly askew?
Do you have, to paraphrase Morpheus, a splinter in your mind?
If you're interested in hearing the latest information about UFOs, the paranormal,
ancient cultures and structures,
monatomic elements,
longevity,
fantastic discoveries in science,
downloaded to your brain,
then tune into us. Hi, I'm Dave.
And I'm Mackie.
And we are Shiny Side Out, Sundays 2 to 4 a.m. Eastern. See you then.
Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
How dare you, sir? How dare you? No, how dare you? No, how dare you? How dare you? No, how dare you? You dare condemn me? How dare me when I how dare you? You big idiot.
Hello all, thanks for tuning in to Revolution Radio. We are the #1 public access, commercial-free internet talk radio station on the web, with between 12 and 16 hours of live programming per day, bringing you news, politics, entertainment, and just plain human interactive talks, which are extremely informative and successful nightly open caller roundtables. And how do we do this? Through the support of volunteers and donations from good listeners like you. So if you're digging what you hear, and we are bringing you an entertaining and informative service, please visit our site support page and donate to the cause. Keep us live, keep us kicking, help us bring you the talk. We are already here. Help keep us here. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. Revolution Radio! Revolution Radio. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
All right, everybody. Welcome back. Second half of the show. We're having an excellent show with Stu Webb and Gene Chip Tatum. Excellent guests. I hope you guys are all enjoying it. If you haven't, if you're just tuning in now, you missed an incredible first hour. We're going to be starting to take questions now. The call-in number, of course, is 347-688-2902. Everybody's welcome to call. There's a lot of questions that are coming in from the chat room. We're going to start feeding them, but I definitely want to get some more information. I want to hear more from Chip. But I want to remind everyone again that this is listener-supported radio. We do need your help, and I hope you guys are enjoying this show because this, you are the ones that help us to bring these guests here and to be on the air, and you are certainly, those of you out there that do donate, you are doing a fantastic service to all of the listeners and the rest of the world to help bring this information and dispel the disinformation that we're being fed by the mainstream media. All right, that being said, I want to welcome back Stu and Chip. You guys still with us?
Yes, and I thank you for having us tonight, Stephen. And with that said, I'm turning it over to Gene. Gene, tell us about your background from Vietnam forward, and working with Barry Seals, and the things you did for the government, including some of the mortgage and HUD stuff and other stuff. Just touch it for say 10 or 15 minutes on this, would you please?
Well, I got a quick synopsis. I was captured in Cambodia on a black op. We went in, we bombed the Phnom Penh airport. We were hoping to bring, we were dressed as North Vietnam sappers. We were hoping to bring Lon Nol, the premier of Cambodia, into the American side to fight alongside the South Vietnamese against the Viet Cong. Very, very successful mission. 13 Special Forces members went in. Unfortunately, the support aircraft weren't sent to pick us up. We were never to return. We subsequently found out yet 2 of us survived after a Marine recon mission happened upon the encampment where we were held. After that, I was debriefed in the Philippines in the hospital. I'd been shot and received some head wounds. In the debriefing, I was told that I would be in close contact, be held close to the CIA. Ambassador Colby was the person who debriefed us. Ambassador Colby is the one who actually called the mission, E&A. After that, I spent my time active duty with the Air Force. I was sent to special missions as Air Force personnel in CIA. We were sheep dipped when we needed to. We were sent across. I was sent to Italy. I was sent to Yugoslavia to spy on Tito. Sent out on the high plains of Colorado. We were in a huge communications site that went down a couple stories, and we were constantly transmitting signals into space and receiving signals down. Can't tell you what it was doing, what it was saying, but we recorded everything. We were there for a very long time. While we were there in the 70s also, we were transporting, because we were in the high plains of Colorado, we were used and asked to transport boxes back to Denver, Colorado, and Colorado Springs, where our home bases were. And we subsequently found that in all these boxes that we were driving back and forth in the Air Force vehicles, there were mortgages. I have to think, after seeing that they were mortgages and titles to homes, that they had to have something to do with all the missing HUD homes back in the 70s. In the 80s, member of Task Force 160, 160th Aviation, black helicopters flying covert missions around the world. In the later 80s, I was sheep dipped out of the military service. We were flying missions in Honduras, picking up drugs, flying in medevac helicopters, because it was under the Bolin Act we were not allowed to operate as any offensive operations in support of the Congress, so we had to disguise ourselves as medical. So we're flying medevac aircraft, flying arms in, flying drugs out.
Gene, real quick, those mortgages, the paper, the missing HUD houses and the mortgages, you delivered them to an attorney named Norman Brownstein, who happened to be George Herbert Walker Bush's attorney and Leonard Millman's attorney. And you also delivered cocaine personally to then Governor Bill Clinton and Jackson Stevens. Isn't that correct?
In the early 80s, we did that when we were at Fort Campbell. We would have night missions cross-country, practicing night vision goggles. C-130 came in, and they said, you guys are flying to Little Rock tonight. While you're there, you'll be met and drop this off to whoever meets you.
Was that for
Clinton? Came up
Clinton's?
after we landed, and the person that got out of the limo, 2 people got out of the limo, was Governor Clinton and the guy named Jackson Stevens.
Was this for his personal consumption?
That's an awful lot in there for personal consumption.
He probably shared it with some of those women he was chasing all around all the time, huh?
A lot of parties.
His brother Roger said he snorted cocaine like a vacuum cleaner. Isn't that right, Gene?
Yeah, I heard a DEA clip when Roger Clinton was charged and found guilty of distribution of cocaine. That he was ordering some cocaine from his dealer, from the informant, and they had the audio clip where Roger says, "Hey, I need a little more from you because my brother's coming to the party tonight. He's got a nose like a vacuum cleaner."
And what about Hillary? Has she been known to participate?
I can't tell you anything about Hillary. We never really dealt with her.
I see. Yeah, well, that was probably what he did to forget about her, huh? Good. Great stuff.
Just touch on, because you worked with the operations out of Colorado that I've been after all these years, and it lends credit to the things I've said. But touch on a little bit more about these missing HUD houses and the boxes of mortgages. You guys were changing the deeds at the orders of Gov, your superiors, and delivering them up to Norman Brownstein, Millman and Mizell, the bank scammers, attorney.
There was a savings and loan that was located in two places, I think in Springfield, Colorado, and Lamar, Colorado, that was doing all those paperwork. We were just the delivery boys. We, as military personnel, we had our own job to do. However, our home base was back in Denver and back in Colorado Springs, and we were back and forth all the time. And because I was who I was, and because of who I worked for, I was asked to, whenever I had trips, stop by the Valley Savings Loan, pick up those boxes, and bring them on into Colorado.
Hey, another thing that was going on with those mortgages at the time, which is basically the same thing that led to the same thing that went on with bank bailout, where they were duplicating mortgages and doing all the stuff. There was a lot of different things that happened, like Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, a whole bit, the FDIC. Basically, what they were doing is talk about that for a minute, would you?
In the late 80s, we had proprietary companies. We were in Colorado. This was in the 70s, the first instance I was talking about. In the late 80s, after we finished our Iran-Contra business, we were working for the OSGs. We formed what's called proprietary companies. Those proprietary companies are standalone companies that provide cover for us, so we can travel the world, go to different places, do what we need to do under cover of a civilian job. The company that we worked with was called World Home Mortgage. We were given straw men. We were given straw titles. We took those straw men. We took those straw titles. We built huge databases and huge portfolios for homes out of these. We passed those on to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. They were sold in bundles of millions of dollars, sold in bundles to them, and those monies were dispersed throughout Black Ops.
Now, Home America Mortgage, Carl I. Brown of Kansas City, Home America Mortgage, which was a subsidiary of MDC Holdings, which, by the way, is named in the lawsuit with J.P. Morgan for doing the current bank bailout that they just settled for $13 billion. Wasn't that two of the companies, Home America Mortgage and Carl I. Brown, involved?
Oh, yeah. Carl I. Brown, North American Mortgage, Countrywide Mortgage. We were selling to all of them. And they were repackaging and selling to Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac.
I had him mention that for a reason, because I never could figure out why they created MERS, which is the electronic filing system created by Larry Mizell that was creating the mortgages from 2001, 2008 when he got caught. And they're still sitting on all these mortgages, and they're going back around and stealing people's homes back from them, saying they own their mortgages because it's electronically filed with MERS, a private corporation. But they filed this or formed this in 1993, and I could never understand why they had MERS, and they're going around stealing people's homes, and they had this created in 93. And I've known this for quite some time now because of Gene in the past year, but now I understand why they did it, because they thought they were going to get caught with this kind of stuff back in the 90s.
So we got a lot of questions here I want to bring in, but the cocaine thing, are they still, CIA is still very much involved in bringing the cocaine in here? And obviously the heroin coming out of Afghanistan now, what portion of the black budget do you suppose is being funded by these drugs?
It's hard to say, but I can look at during the Iran-Contra years, and even before that. Look, when we were providing support for Air America, it wasn't cocaine; it was heroin then, and we were jumping into these crashed aircraft. We were supporting. We throw up balloons and nets, and C-130s would come in and scoop these nets full of heroin out of the area operations, and then they'd come back around and pick us up in an extraction. Mm-hmm. Had to be millions and billions. Had to be millions and millions and millions of dollars back in Vietnam. We supplied tons of cocaine from these Contra camps into C-130s and into two similar occasions in a place close to a place called El Tigre in Honduras. We met at an airstrip Barry Seal. We would supply a C-123 full of coolers into him. Each one of these coolers had at least 110 to 120 kilos of cocaine. These were pure cocaine. This wasn't cut. Street value of cut cocaine was $25,000, so the pure stuff had to be 3 times that.
Okay, now, Gene, you're familiar with Ollie North and a submarine company down at Pier 66 where Jeb Bush has his current cocaine operation, aren't you?
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay. I thought you knew about that.
No.
I'll throw something out real quick about Afghanistan. I just have to put 2 cents in on this because I am aware of this. John McCain made a trip 8 to 10 weeks ago to about 8 weeks ago to Afghanistan. While he was over there, he picked up bearer bonds. He took those bearer bonds and he went over to Switzerland and cashed them out at the counter and put the money in a Swiss bank account. Now, John McCain's an Israeli senator, we call him, because he answers to Larry Mizell. And, I mean, they are tight. He calls him daily. We call him the Israeli senator, John McCain, which almost put in jail over the Keating 5 scandal in 1990. John McCain gets a cut of the cocaine along with Lieberman, Senator Lieberman, and some congressman that I can't find out his name. John McCain sits on Armed Services Committee. This is the reason the Senate Armed Services, this is the reason he keeps the war alive, the reason he keeps the Guantanamo Bay Cuba alive, because they're bringing the drugs in there. It's flight retentions by the shadow government and the CIA. And we are also aware, because U.S. military filmed, and I have a picture of Mitt Romney during his presidential election against Barack Obama, walking down a set of stairs off of an airplane at a tarmac airport in Cuba with a KGB colonel's daughter, who was his mistress, delivering $3.2 trillion worth of narcotics accounts from Bain Capital to my former father-in-law, Leonard Millman, because U.S. intelligence was on his rear end saying, what's this guy, a presidential candidate, going to Cuba for? They have him on videotape having sex with this KGB mistress, and on videotape out on the poolside of Leonard Millman's villa.
Wow. Great stuff. Great stuff. What about the Mexican drug cartels? Obviously the CIA, there's a lot of talk about the CIA and the Zetas are very closely, or is it another group? What can you tell us about that?
Well, a lot of the drugs from Honduras ended up going up into Mexico rather than trying to bring them all the way up into the United States. Even Barry said he would do drop-offs in Mexico. Mm-hmm. They've always been there. They're just stronger today because it's so difficult to come straight to the United States with all the interdiction. So a lot of them are brought up around the Pacific side into Mexico in fast boats. They're also in submarines, brought up from South America in submarines. They have some of the fast boats now that are GPS run, so they don't have to have any people on board. It goes from one point to another, stops and waits for the other boat to pick it up and go. But most of the drugs that are coming into the U.S. are going through Mexico now. They're not coming straight in. Most of the largest portion of drugs are going to Europe, and they're going to Europe from South America over to the islands, directly into Africa because of the corruption there, and they can buy their way and they can have protection protecting the flow of the drugs and being sold up into Europe, and there's even more of a profit for them there.
I got a question for you guys, Gene, especially for you. with the way that the states or the various states are starting to legalize medical marijuana and recreational use of marijuana, and that really seems to be picking up a lot of momentum. This has got to be driving the CIA and these other professional drug smugglers nuts. What do you have to say about that?
Marijuana was never that big of an issue with us, only because it was so bulky and there was less profit in it. Mm-hmm. It was just a cheaper drug, so it wasn't that big of an issue. We usually let that go to others. We wanted the heroin, we wanted the cocaine, we wanted the scopolamine, we wanted the items that were high dollar and good returns.
Well, I guess the point I was trying to make is, do you think that with the legalization, with so many people producing it here in the States now legally, that's got to be taking a cut out of their market and distracting a lot of the users that may otherwise go to the cocaine or the heroin or whatever other drugs that these guys are bringing in?
Well, I don't know, not knowing much about drugs. When I came back to the United States, I was held for 11 months in Miami Federal Prison for violating and leaving the United States without permission, coming back in without a passport. I was there, and it seems like the majority of the drugs now and what people are preferring is meth. They say meth is a much better drug than, it does more for them than cocaine, does more for them than marijuana, and people love meth.
Well, is that also?
I'm never having a person who's never used drugs. I honestly don't know.
Is the meth?
Something. I know a CI attorney, and he sat down with me in Denver, Colorado once, way back in the 90s. We sat and had a discussion about this, whether a drug should be legalized in the United States, and he says yes. And I'm like, man, I'm against drugs. I was in my 20s. I smoked a few joints. Never done any other drugs. But I said, you know what? Pot's no different than drinking 4 or 5 beers or a 6-pack or whatever, except you can function. Where you have a few beers, you don't function so much. And I said, why would you want to legalize it? He says, because it takes the profit out of the cartels. And he represented many cartel dealers. He represented Robert Vesco, as an example, way back. And Robert Vesco was one of the biggest drug operations in Colorado that led to the death of Elvis Presley. In Operation Something Pin, I had it at one time on my side. I'll put it back up soon. But, we talked about that. And I had Bill Bixby, the actor that did a big two-hour thing on Elvis Presley's death. Her producer came to Las Vegas and hung out with me for a week, and because I had on my crime chart Robert Vesco. And Robert Vesco was the drug operation before Neil Bush. Neil Bush, Peter Kurz, and Larry Mizell are now the big drug dealers. And Mizell controls an 11-state drug operation where they're bringing part of Iran-Contra, where they're bringing the drugs out of Canada into the United States through furniture transport companies and a big furniture company out of Colorado. And I've asked him, I said, why would you want to legalize it? He says, if they made the laws to where people, if they want to use coke, they grow the crap in the yard, whatever coke's derivatized from. If they want heroin, they grow poppy seeds or whatever it is. They do it from the poppy seeds. They grow in their own backyard. They want to smoke pot, they grow in their backyards. But if they're caught selling it, you give them jail time. He says it will take the profit out of Daddy Bush's pocket.
In Colombia, they just
want to kill themselves, let them kill
them for personal use. They did that because of the problems with trafficking. They should do the same thing. I don't have a problem with legalizing it. I think it would solve a lot of our problems.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it seems to be building momentum every day, and I'm thinking that the powers that be must be really upset about all that. But a lot of other people have said that and this is a great segue, is that the marijuana also is a excellent anti-programming or deprogramming. It essentially defeats the mind control, and that's the segue. A lot of people want us to talk a little bit more about the mind control technology that you were talking about in the beginning.
Throw some out with you. When they had me as a political prisoner, I had some kid that was in there locked up for going across Estes Park, which is a federal reservation, the park itself, driving from Granby over to Estes, where he was working, Estes, the city of Estes in Colorado. And here I'm in the detention center in Denver with him. And he's got a book on pot. And his whole defense was they caught him with what he said was a roach in his ashtray. The park ranger did. So that was automatic 6 months in jail and federal detention because he's going across federal reservation. He educated me in the fact of what hemp has been made out of over the years. They used to make clothes out of hemp, and the clothes would last 4 times as long as a pair of jeans. They make ski resorts in America. They use hemp rope inside the metal of the ski resort cables that's made out of Germany. Apparently, hemp has a lot of benefits, including cancer patients where they're not able to absorb all kinds of stuff. I mean, the list goes on. So as far as I'm concerned, I've come to realize that it could put a dent in the pockets of the crime syndicate if they made it legal where people could, if they make it to where they're buying it over the counter, the crime syndicate's going to own those counters. It's just going to make it more profitable for them. But if they were to make it to where they can grow it in their own backyard and use it themselves, but they get caught, nail them for it. Give them time. Mm-hmm. It'd take the sales out of it, and it would take the profits out of the pockets of the bad guys.
Well, what is it? The flag flying over the state capitol is made out of hemp, and obviously the Constitution was written on hemp paper. So I guess the DEA doesn't really want to talk about that, huh?
I'll bet not.
One last question before we open up the callers or whatever. I want to ask you. You know, Al Martin used to say there were 50,000 people that he had the list of. He could make a phone call. Matter of fact, I'll tell you how significant it is. You know, I had this little clown named Tim White that was a FBI paid stooge on their payroll, tried to come after me and Al Martin back in the 90s. Al Martin made a phone call to one of the people on the list who happened to be a Denver cop, and suddenly this guy got busted on narcotics, which he was involved with, and he was facing 5 years in prison. And then here he is working for the FBI, and they turn around and they get him out 6 months later, and his record was sealed. Okay, so he could go out and be a plant in the patriot community, which he's always been. He was one of the ones stalking me with a whole bunch of other ones. That the dead Kennedy, his real name is John W. Allman, and all this other stuff. The Educate Yourself crowd, where they put out disinformation all the time. But he was able to pick up a list and make a phone call. Did you have those lists also?
You talking to me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We always had a number we could call to get out of trouble, yes.
A get out of jail free card, huh?
That's exactly right.
Well, you guys, we're down to about roughly 30 minutes left in the show, which, you know, this has gone so quick, but I can't believe that nobody's taken advantage of these excellent guests that we have and is not calling in. So I want to remind everybody, area code 347-688-2902 or Skype in at Freedom Screen. Please call and join us. We've got, this is your chance to ask some great questions ask questions to some great guests. So please take advantage of this.
By the way, I want to throw one thing out. It seems I'm talking most of the show here, but Bruce Campbell, a good friend of mine, an ex-mercenary in Rhodesia, and he has the American Defense Party. Everybody might take a look at it. It's Ways Change America. 3 deals. One is you get involved with your neighbors and setting up a crime watch. You can get rid of the infiltrators that are already out there reporting to the police department. It's a good way for you to educate your neighbors on the corruption that you hear about consistently, and wake them up that are couch potatoes, and it's a way to get rid of crime in the neighborhood, true crime. And the second thing is to set up civilian police oversight committees for brutality of these cops going around killing people and brutalizing people and spying on you and all this. And then the first time they get caught, you know, by someone making a complaint to the committee, then they're investigated, they're fired, and they're put in jail for what they do to Americans. And it breaks up Homeland Securities, this Zionist Homeland Security that Daddy Bush set up, and, of course, reach out to people within government and so forth. And the fourth thing that I recommend that I formed was Recall Petitions, and .com, recallpetitions.com, and the petition itself is up there. It's a boilerplate. Victor Head that I set it up with got him attention. He removed a congresswoman in Pueblo. On the same day, they had the same election going on for another congressman in Colorado Springs. They removed them back in September because they signed, for gun control. This third one was removed 2 months ago, and because of gun control, signing off on the legislation to limit gun activity in Colorado. She did not want to run. She said, I'm resigning because I don't want to go through the embarrassment after she got Bloomberg of New York injected $150,000 into her rerun campaign. She just kept the money because she can convert that to personal income when she pays tax on it. So there's 3 Congress people in Colorado that have been removed. They're the gun control nutcases that got moved because of the recall petition. Same petition can be used for anyone who signed the Patriot Act, the NDAA Act, or any violation of their oath of office to uphold and defend and support the Constitution. And that can be used also in your county commissioners or your city hall members, meaning your city council or mayors, that say, no, we're not going to set up the police oversight committee. That can be used for that purpose or recalling them as well. So, folks, get involved. Quit sitting around on the Internet posting the Stooges information. Keep listening to good radio where there's some and checking out your favorite news sites that are telling the truth. But get out there and get involved and quit the crap on Facebook and Twitter and all the disinformation that's out there and get involved in doing something to save your country.
We've got our first caller. I want to welcome area code 860. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
This is Frank in Connecticut.
Hi, Frank. You have a question for Stu or Gene?
I actually got a couple questions, and I'll get off the air for Gene. I missed the first part of the show, but Gene, I heard you talking about sending signals up into space or whatever. I was just wondering if I could get your take on what you know about the off-world entities, the aliens, working with the government. That's my first question, if you could answer that. And then my second question is Gunderson. What was your relationship with Gunderson, and was he a stooge? So I'll take this off the line, and I'm kind of interested in hearing that. Thank you.
We worked in OLAB, operating location Alpha Bravo, Lamar, Colorado, out on the High Plains. It was a supposed AT&T site. It wasn't an AT&T site. It was a AFCS communications site that's under Space Command. It was actually under Cheyenne Mountain, and now it's under Space Command, but they recently closed it down. Sending signals into space, that's exactly what we were doing. We were shooting them into space, and we were collecting data and recording data and on our receivers coming down. We would tape that data, and every 24 hours we would ship those, we would take those tapes, and we would take them to what's now Space Command in Colorado Springs. Working with aliens, I honestly don't know. I know I've heard, being in the realm that I was in, I've heard a lot of stories, and I can't discount those stories because the men that I knew were very credible. I just have to leave it at that because I have to honestly say I honestly don't know, but I have very credible friends and colleagues who have some wonderful stories, and I wish they were around to tell them right now.
Hey, Gene.
Ted Gunderson?
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead. Ted Gunderson, go ahead.
Ted Gunderson was a friend, whether he was a disinformation person or not. Look, he was an FBI guy. If he'd receive information of someone planning to plot something against the United States, it was his obligation to turn that information in, I would think. Me as a military officer, I'm an officer. I'll always be an officer. I have an obligation to go back to active duty anytime I'm called. Now I don't because I'm a felon. But I can't say anything bad about Ted. I know there's a lot of people out there that have bad feelings about Ted, but I'm just not one of them.
I will add to that Ted Gunderson did an interview of Gene Tatum back in 1995 at the Global Sciences down in Florida, along with Barbara Hartwell and a whole bunch of other people that were there. Now, he made a tape of that. But I got to know Ted Gunderson personally for almost 3 years. I watched Ted Gunderson. I saw things about Ted Gunderson. Ted Gunderson turned like a rabbit on me when I asked him the question, is it true that when you were kicked out of the FBI for holding satanic ceremonies in your FBI office and put to early retirement, that you were diagnosed as a paranoid schizophrenic as the reason they let you go? He admitted that. And then he admitted his daughter, Lori, had the same problem, and his son, Ted Jr., out of 4 kids. Later on, Ted Gunderson tried to extort me out of documents I didn't even have, trying to get a killer off in Las Vegas, Nevada, named Thomas Gall, who had shot 2 people at his front door that he owed $150 to, that they had moved something the week prior. He comes to his door when they came to collect the $150 with the shotgun, and they see it. They try to wrestle the shotgun, and he shot one of them right there. Then the other one, the guy that got shot, takes off running. The other guy takes off running. This guy, Tom Gall, chases him down, shoots one in the back of the head at the end of his driveway, chases the other one 2 blocks down the street and blows him away from the back, 2 shotguns to the rear. He calls it self-defense, said he was stun-gunned, was out of his mind, didn't know what he was doing. It turned out to be the guy was declared a manic depressant nutcase to begin with. His mother was in a nursing home. His mother had $250,000 in assets between some stocks and 3 junk houses she had. Gunderson says, I'll get you off the charges. He got him off the charges on 5-year probation in exchange for supposedly he's going to pay Ted Gunderson $200,000 of the $250,000. Ted Gunderson came to me, asked me if I could get documents about Jared Schaefer, the public administrator in Las Vegas. It happened to be that Al Martin's good friend, Stephen Dinerstein, had those documents because he had investigated him as a private investigator early on. He says, I haven't been paid the $4,500 I'm owed for my investigation. They shortchanged me. Tell Gunderson he can have those for $4,500. A year later, after begging me for those documents, and I kept saying I don't have them, Ted Gunderson sent a SWAT team into my house. It literally blew windows out, doors off, and everything, because he wants those documents, thinking I've got documents inside my house. The SWAT team left with detectives after 5 hours of interrogation. Then I put a restraining order on him. Then Tom Gall charges me with assault and battery, which they held over my head for 1.5 years. Then the charges were dismissed by Las Vegas. Then I find out during that period of time the truth about Ted Gunderson. I talked to his ex-wife, Jocelyn, who told me she divorced him in 1972 because he jumped in the swimming, came home from work, jumped in the swimming pool in front of his 11-year-old daughter or 12-year-old daughter, naked in front of her 6 friends who were there. And then she said she calls the girls in, locks the door, throws his clothes out. I investigated Ted Gunderson for retaliating against me and playing his little game. I found out he had been charged in 50 states.
Excuse me just a second, Webb.
Let me finish for a minute. I have up on the front of my website on the right column where Ted Gunderson tried to steal Dave Hinkins' Water Oz business and put him in jail for 40 years to life for a murder-for-hire scheme that Gunderson tried to do to me in 1993. It's up there on my site, an affidavit where Ted Gunderson raped a 12-year-old girl at a satanic ceremony in 1972, and it says FBI, CIA, Ted Gunderson had sex with 12-year-old at satanic ritual in 1972, illegally framed patriots for FBI to silence them for the Bush crime family. FreeDavidHinkson.org. The book and affidavit is a free download on my site right there.
Thank you, Stu. I want to welcome a friend of mine that just called in.
The alien part of it, if people listen to 2 things, listen to the interviews on the bottom middle column of Ed Slade. He was a former U.S. scientist that worked with the aliens, and it will answer all your questions.
Okay, we've got another caller just joined us. Tony Pasek, you've got some good questions. Would you please say hello and ask your question?
Yeah, hello. Thank you, Stephen, for such a wonderful interview. Hello, Stu, and hello, Gene. I would like to actually backtrack a little bit to what Gene had mentioned some things, and I'm very curious about, are you aware or do you have any information on the secret space program that is completely hidden from the populace of the planet?
You know, NASA and the Air Force have 2 separate programs, and most people aren't aware of that. NASA has their astronauts The Air Force and the military have their astronauts. They have 2 separate launch pads at Kennedy Space Center right here in Florida, where I am. So yes, there are 2 absolute different programs, and one's more or less a black program. The other one's the public NASA program.
Have you witnessed any of the black programs craft?
No. I know that in the older days they used they basically run the same missions off the shuttles. But you have to understand that once you get rid of one type of aircraft, it means they already have something else in service. And
yeah,
that's
I'm
just
well
the way
aware.
it's always been.
I think to answer the question easiest is go to my internet site, stewwebb.com, STEWWEBB.com. In the left-hand column on a computer, or if you're on your iPad or phone, just scroll down, and it says U.S. Intel Breaking News. Go in there and find the interviews with John Lear. He talks about what your questions are, and John has he's very in tune with this. And look at that Ed Slade audios as well, because I think it's something that gets into the real deep side of things.
Yeah, it's one of those things that when you follow the money, this is where I keep going back to, is where in the hell is all the money going? And I have a feeling that much of it is going into these deep black military projects and the secret space program. To go to a different topic is that, and you did kind of cover over this a little bit, but what I'm more interested in is the mind control and what kind of tech was actually used to use the mind control on different individuals. Can you go into that a little bit?
We use scopolamine. It's called burundanga. It's a chemical. We could keep someone under for 2 weeks at a time without any harm being done. The chemical that we use, it was tasteless, it was odorless. You could put it on a stick of gum, and it would look just like the little fine powder that you get on any stick of gum. It was that little bit of amount is all that was needed. A person would do whatever you ask him to do. They'd have complete amnesia afterwards. One of the best mind control items that we had. For short term. For long term, there were other programs available, and there's even electronic programs available now that they're able to target certain sensors in the brain. But in the old days, in the good old days, scopolamine was something that we used called burundanga, and it was one of the most effective that I've ever been able to use, and we used it in several instances.
Gene, real quick, as I recall, you remember Coca-Cola chairman at the time, that he's dead now, but and he lived for several years after this, but a Coca-Cola chairman got, should we say, voodoo drugged, and all of a sudden...
Adolfo Cabero, we did him.
Yeah. Well, explain what happened there in the swap that they were trying to get him to do with Melman on that Gulf Stream land down there in Florida, and have him put his tree sweet Coca-Cola sign up down there on the Blease property to do a cover operation to keep from getting Melman and Daddy Bush in trouble over the 16,000 acres of marijuana in Blease. Explain what happened, would you please?
Well, I can't exactly talk about that. I don't know much about that, but I know he got a little too big for his britches. He demanded certain things. He demanded them out of the Chamorro government, and he wanted certain partnerships from the Bush Group, from the Enterprise. They weren't about to give it to him. However, they knew that because of his position in the coming Nicaraguan government, he would be a great asset, but they needed to keep him controlled. He had come to Bush, and he told him, if he didn't get what he wanted, he'd expose everything he knew. What he knew is possibly what you're talking about, Stu, but there are a lot of other things they knew that were going on down in Nicaragua, Honduras, and that area also. So he was neutralized by the use of burundanga. He was dosed with burundanga. An agent brought a prostitute in, a transvestite. They filmed Caldero having sex with this prostitute and then killing the prostitute afterwards in a satanic ritual. and he had no knowledge of it afterwards. A couple weeks later, I was the one, I have to say, I was the one who delivered the tape and the message to him. And he viewed the tape, and he sat there in tears, watching what he had done. And he
traded the Coca-Cola land for the police land shortly after that, or something like that, as I recall.
Hang on just a second, guys. We just brought in a new caller, area code 914. You've got a lot of background noise going on. If you could do something about that, please. That's fine. Great. What's your name? Where are you calling? Well, we lost him. Hey, Gene, Stu, we talk about this a lot, and I think Tony might have been what he was alluding to. But aside from the drugs, were there any sort of electronic devices that you're familiar with that they used, sort of like the radionics devices and this sort of thing, scalar technology? Do you know if they used anything like that to influence people, especially on a mass scale, a la Montauk?
Back in the 80s, I wasn't aware of a lot. I know we had aircraft we could fly, we could target certain areas. A big problem we had was getting a target small area. We had the technology where we could target an area, but there would be a lot of collateral damage on anything we could do. We couldn't go from a long distance to a specific person. We could go to a specific area, but everyone in the area would be affected.
Got it.
I might add, because I've gained a lot of knowledge of a lot of the stuff where, say, Gene worked at, but other people that I've come to know, like Gene. E-Systems of Dallas, Texas, Daddy Bush's company. They haul drugs all over the country. I mean, all over the world, actually. And they bring in a Homestead Air Force Base. They bring it into several locations still to today, in Fort Worth, Texas. But they're in control of E-Systems. E-Systems satellites out of Mobile, Alabama, have hooked up to the Westar satellite system. These are private satellites. They were government satellites. Now Daddy Bush is in control of them. And Margaret Thatcher's son was getting paychecks off of there. And our good friend, mine and Gene's, Bill McCoy, that we all worked with back in the mid-'90s, he had found out about Margaret Thatcher and George W. Bush and Neil and Jeb and everybody getting paychecks off E-Systems. And it's owned by Raytheon. And E-Systems controls the voting booths in America, the electronic voting booths now. They also control the Westar. The Westar has the capability of what they call sonar technology. And they can fly over in America in a half an hour to an hour, depending on their targets for the day. And they can actually zap people, which they do in the middle of the night. And they can deplete the potassium and magnesium from your body from zapping you. And after about a year, all of a sudden your immune system's down, and say if you don't have enough potassium and magnesium and you're susceptible to a heart attack, you're going to have a heart attack. They've killed a lot of people this way. I myself have been bounced off of my bed in the middle of the night a while back. This was a couple of years ago, three times in a row. I was at a super spook like Gene's level in his home one night, staying there. He got zapped, nearly had a heart attack, had a lump on his chest. It will knock mercury out of your teeth because it happened to me, and I had to go get other than metal fillings done because they removed about 4 of them that I had mercury. It shrinks the mercury in your teeth within a day after it automatically when they zap you. That's old technology. Veterans Today released, and Gordon Duff has done 2 stories on it. And I've had them on my website. They're in the left column. You go down and look, and they're up on Veterans Today, and I forgot the title. But it's the electronic manipulation. And he talked about this interestingly on another show, I think it was Mike Harris's, where he talked about this technology the week before, and I hadn't even talked to him about this. This was someone else I had discussed because I had 6 super spooks come through here, friends of mine, during the holidays. For various reasons, they were going through Kansas City. So I had time to talk to them about the latest. It comes back to the latest technology, which they're implementing now, and they already have implemented, supposedly, is the control through the TVs, through the internet, through your cell phones, and through your ground lines. They can actually target you through those items. They don't need to sit off in a distance anymore and hit you with something in the way of that little pocket toy that they could pull out and shoot you with. They don't need to do that anymore. You just go home, turn on the TV, you're targeted.
Okay, guys, I want to bring in this caller that's been very patient. Area code 914. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Bobby from New York. How you doing, Steve?
Great. What would you like to ask the guys?
You can hear me clear? I got a new phone.
You sound good.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Great. Okay, 3 quick points, if you don't mind. Steve, once again, excellent show, man. Wow. Point number 2, I heard Chip on Clay Douglas's show on YouTube today, and I was blown away, man. Chip, it's such an honor to speak to you. I've seen your videos, and like the late, great Ted Gunderson, may he rest in peace, said about you, you're John Wayne, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Rambo all rolled into one. So I'm so happy that you're alive and well. Here's my third point. Stu, if you don't mind, I don't want to fight with you, but you can't deny, Ted Gunderson put out so much great material out there and exposed so much bad stuff, and he did so many good things that I gotta say, I've heard so many interviews with you, and you have so many good things to say, and I'm right along with you, but you sound like a mind-controlled nut that once you hear the name Ted Gunderson, you go on for 20 minutes ripping the poor guy, and you sound like a disgruntled girlfriend. I hate to say it.
Let me explain something to you.
Does anybody else agree with me? Chip, how can you sit there and let this guy rip such a great guy who let him rest in peace? Chip, if you don't mind, just one last thing. Chip, don't you think he's
stole from old ladies? He had 50 attorney generals. Every state had a charge against him, and Bush came in and said, no, we got a Justice Department operation going on this guy. He's an ex-FBI agent. Turn your files over to us. And that's how they protected him. He was a spy in the patriot community. He put out disinformation. He had some clown. I mean, talk to anybody who dealt with him. Ask Dave Hinkson why he lingers in jail for 40 years on a fake attempted murder for hire scheme and evidence that the guy shouldn't even be there. Ask him why the 12-year-old that got raped that's 40, almost 50 years of age. Ask her what occurred. Ask Bobby Seals of the Black Panthers why he was locked up in 1971 or 2 for supposedly killing another Black Panther and that professor because of Gunderson's love letter. Ask the 50 little old ladies around the country. Ask Frito-Lay Air in Dallas, Texas, how he came in there to steal and rob and loot from her. I could go on and on about this guy.
Okay, Stu.
I suffered his wrath. I know what he did to me. He tried to extort me. He sent a SWAT team in to kill me. I know exactly about this guy. I investigate him. I have so much on him and his slime balls. He had Tim White working for him. He's got ask Lorraine Fenton of Revolution Radio next time she has her show about Doug Millar, who was part of Ted Gunderson's Patriot spy team coming to interrupt all of her constant conventions that she puts on. Ask her, and ask her what happened when I mentioned to her and she mentioned to his roommate, and what happened suddenly. He moves. Ask him. Ask her. Ask a lot of people. Ask Jackie McDowell, the McMartin preschool case. I can bring her on the air if she's still alive, where he poisoned her because he shows up on camera in 1979 and she's digging the tunnel to prove that her child was molested at the McMartin preschool case, and she had some preacher pay for the tunnel dig, $10,000, and the day the cameras are out there, ABC, NBC, all the major networks, what happens? Gunderson shows up. Oh, I'm in charge here. I'm ex-FBI. She goes, get the hell out of here. I don't know you. And he pushes his way into her life. Then she ends up what? She ends up at the Capason Indian Reservation. She meets Michael Riconosciuto, the Inslaw software genius. Ask him about Ted Gunderson, put him in prison for 24 years for opening his mouth.
Matter of fact, Jimmy Rothstein, former customs agent, that knew all about the pedophile ring in Washington, D.C., and on the brownstone that connected John DeCamp and the Franklin cover-up, that Gunderson infiltrated John DeCamp to cover the damn thing up because John DeCamp and a guy named, I forgot his last name, another CIA top chief, were the ones who were running the blackmail operation out of Washington. And I have a reporter with People magazine that she said she found out they were using every orphanage across the country, and who was running it? Ted Gunderson and others. And so he goes in to cover up the Franklin thing.
Okay, Stu, pardon me, please.
I could go on all day about this guy.
Unfortunately, we're down to less than 2 minutes.
I don't want to talk about the slime ball. The only thing he ever put out was disinformation. Go to the front of my website. And Jimmy Rothstein, by the way, former customs agent that chased Ted Gunderson and his whole pedophile ring that works with Michael Shooter on a weekly basis and his sister. He'll be on the air next week with me. Watch my website, left column, StuWebb.com, and watch for the interviews.
Okay,
he's
sorry,
coming
Stu.
public again.
Okay,
and he's
Stu.
going to be talking about Ted Gunderson and his Bush crime syndicate, pedophile ring, the blackball congressmen and senators in Washington, D.C.
We're out of time, Stu.
Of Ted Gunderson.
Okay, we're out of time, Stu. I'm sorry that you got upset about that, and I apologize.
I'm tired of people talking about this slime ball just because he interviewed Gene Chip Tatum at a conference and interviewed a few other people. I suffered his wrath. I found out about him and dug on him. So did Al Martin and Stephen Dinnerstein. This guy's files were so secret. He was hauling drugs. He sold Stinger missiles to Bin Laden, and I've got the government internal memorandum document, and it's up on my website. And I'll repost it after the show just for everybody can see it.
Okay, Stu. Please, pardon me, but please calm down. We're out of time. We got to end it. There's our thing to tell us that we're out of time. Listen, you've got to come back. Gene, obviously, I need you to come back. Sorry that it got a little crazy there. I want to thank everybody for listening. I want to thank our guests especially, and I want to thank everybody in the chat room. Thank you so much, and please tune in again next week, and I want to have these guys back. And Stu, calm down and enjoy the rest of the night. And
Steve, thank you, and thanks for the great rant. I love your rants.
Thank you.
Yeah, there you go. You love my rants.
All right, you guys, again, thank you so much for being here. God bless you all, and everybody, good night.